Hello and welcome to Pickle's Garage for an unofficial part 2 to my EGR AIR delete video, where I also showed you the installation of long tube headers. The reason I'm saying it's an unofficial part 2 is because I think that video really gave you everything you need to know for the most part about what I want to cover, and that's the installation of the long tube headers and what you need to do. But there's some fine tuning that made the process a little easier for me. It was a long video. I knew that most people would kind of be able to adapt certain things, and I covered most of the important stuff, but this is just kind of the added detail, as well as some tuning suggestions. Some people, they have their own tuners. It's not a big deal. They just tow their vehicle to that tuner, get it tuned, and then be good to go. But I have a company that I am going to show you the install of what they sell, and I will show you that process works as well. I'll tell you the price, kind of the process, and then let you decide if that's something you want to do as well. And then you don't have to tow your vehicle anywhere. You can do the installation that I show you, and you'll be back on the road. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Okay, so let's start with the driver's side of the vehicle with some tips there. Now, I mentioned in my other video that I had broken off this piece, but I also mentioned that I broke off my oil pressure sender, which is further down. Now, it's not quite impossible to fit it in as it was stock, but I would probably, if I was to do it again, recommend either relocating it, or you can sort of get it at a different angle using some brass fittings. I was able to get it plugged in, and it is right there. You'll see that silver part. It's zoomed in here. So that silver part is a heat shield, and it's covering the pressure sensor, and it's also covering the plug itself. Now, what I had to do was essentially I had to make sure that all of the header itself was loose, and then I had to get that fitting in. And then while this was completely loose and banging around here, I had to get that heat shield in place, snug it up as much as I can with that plug in, and then I had to install this. So I had to essentially have the header in the vehicle, install this, and then put the header in place. But there's another thing that you have to worry about while you're ping-ponging between that, and that is your drive shaft here. So I would say if I was to do it again, I would probably get a aftermarket drive shaft, but they're actually pretty difficult to find the exact specifications that you need. You might have better luck, but I was able to get the stock shaft in here. Basically, I don't have that plastic elbow that was formerly on it. The rag joint does clear the tube, but you'll notice I have a little bit of a dent in there, and I will describe that right now. So basically, I had to have the pipe loosely in place. I had to move it all the way back, and then I had to essentially install that drive shaft, and then I had to start working, once that was installed, working the pipe back forward. Then I installed that oil pressure sensor, and then I was actually fitting the piping. But I wanted to have a little bit of extra room for the drive shaft, just so it wasn't rattling around on my header pipe, and that is where that dent came from. What I did is I kind of loosely installed it, loosely lined it where I expected it to be. I used a marker to mark the pipe so I knew where the top end of my dent needed to be, and then I got socket size 1, and this is an impact socket just so it's a little hardier. I got my extension, and then I held it against the pipe, and then I used just a little 3-pound here just to go ahead and hammer what I needed out of it. So I probably could have gone a little lower. This is definitely a measure twice, hammer once, but I think I got the clearance I needed, and it's not going to affect your performance. There's actually a rumor going around that putting dents in your pipes actually improves performance. I don't really remember the Engine Masters episode, but I would say it is going to be perfectly fine, but it did give me a little bit extra clearance for my drive shaft. Again, if I was a little bit more comfortable finding aftermarket parts, I'd probably go ahead and change that, because really if you can get this a little bit longer and then this a little bit shorter, you could clear much cleaner than what I had to do. So that is essentially this side. That was the added detail. The good thing about this side is you didn't have to do anything with the O2 sensor. You buy those online, it will fit out of the box, no issues. But that leads us to this side. So with this side, there's not anything all that fancy I need to go over. For the most part, it was described completely in the video, but what you will notice is there is a wire down there that's a little bit longer than factory. It goes back into my O2 sensor, and you'll notice in the most blurry way that it has been extended. So what I did for that is, because of where everything is located, you do need to add wire to your O2 sensor on just this side. And so all I did was I cut either side of my old O2 sensor and just reuse that length of wire. And then I put it in the middle, just cut in half my new O2 sensor wire. And then I just used that old wire to extend it. And then I zip tied it away from the header so it wouldn't get all cooked. But that is the only thing I would recommend on this side, is just extending that O2 sensor and then zip tying it out of the way. Now you can buy extensions. I think they're like $30, but they didn't have the right fittings for mine. So I imagine you're probably going to be in a similar boat to me, in which case I would just once again recommend that you just extend it using the old wire. If you don't know how to connect two wires together, I'm sure there's a million videos out there for it. You can buy some stuff at AutoZone, and it makes it really easy. Get some heat shrinking, and you'll be good to go. So that is just the bonus content for the headers themselves and the installation and different things that you need to do there. Now the last part that I'm going to go over today is just the tune itself. So obviously, you know that you're going to have to go to an exhaust shop just to connect, do a Y pipe for your heads to then take it back down the vehicle. But the tune itself, you can either take that to a shop to be done, or you can use this website, and I will walk you through the process. This is what I bought. It's from PCM of NC. It's going to look like this. This is the specific range. Obviously, I have the 1993 Camaro, and it came out to about $250 with taxes and everything, but it gives you the option for aftermarket camera heads, stroker engine, and whatnot. And once you purchase the item, you can go ahead and fill out your build sheet. That will give you options to talk about different elevations that you race at. It'll also give you an opportunity to ask for certain idle speeds and just give basic information about your vehicle that will help them tune it to make it as optimal as possible. They were super easy to work with, answered all my questions. I was able to reach out through email without any sort of issue. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't work for them or anything. I just like to let you guys know when I have a good experience when it comes to one of these items. So this is what I bought. Let me go ahead and dive into the install. And it has arrived. So they made it incredibly easy. You just had to fill out, their online information sheet. They walk you through every detail. They give you suggestions. If you put some information that they think they can improve your vehicle, they'll reach out. You can ask any questions you have. And then they also make it really inexpensive to go ahead and do like a reflash, just in case you do other upgrades, like a, different intake or different heads or whatever. And then it's like $65. This all in was about $250, which I think is an incredible deal. So definitely recommend them, but let me go ahead and show you how to install it. So as with anything you're working on that's electronic, go ahead and remove the negative side of the battery. Now these bolts right here, I just want to get some more exposure to it, but this is going to be the location of your PCM here, and these are going to be size 10 millimeters. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of those, and we'll work on the next part. And there we go, 10 millimeter, all that's holding it in. There is a plug right here. It just has a little slot that just rides on this. So you just have to push it up and then it'll pop off, and then we can set it aside. And then now we can go ahead and start opening it to put in our new chip. So we are going to be careful not to bound up these wires too much, but we can actually leave this plugged in The item that we're looking for is actually on this underside, and so this is sort of just a plastic bracket that's holding it, but we need to access that port here. And so to go ahead and remove this, we're just going to undo these nuts on either side. These are going to be 10 millimeter as well. So let me get those off, and then I'll show you the access port. And then once you have each of these removed, then it just has this kind of rubberized post that just slides through here. So you just have to slide it off, and then that exposes this access port. I just flipped it over. And so this should be about 6 millimeter, but just because it has a little bit of rust on it, I actually found the 1/4 size actually works as well. So I'm going to remove these 4, and then we'll get this removed. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and remove this cover, and that is going to expose what we're removing here. So you'll see there's going to be 2 tabs on either side. I'm going to try not to get a lot of dirt in here. I'll try and clean that up a bit. But there's tabs on either side here that say push. You're just going to push them away from each other like that, and it sort of flicks this up. And then we're going to remove this, and that is going to be what we're plugging into. So I'll show you that with the chip here in a second. So then once again, per our document, you'll see that it's noting these tabs here for the orientation of where it's going to go. So picking up our old one here, you'll see there's 1 right here, and then there's 2 down low. So if I match it up with this, you'll see that it has those 2 higher notches, those 2 tabs, and so this is where it's going to plug into. So let me go ahead and open up our new one. Keep in mind, this is extremely sensitive to static electricity, so try not to wear your 90s jumper suit for this repair. But we're going to go ahead and open this, and then I'll show you plugging it in and putting it back in. Alright, so once again, just referencing where the tabs are on the top here, and then we're going to go ahead and get it lined up to the far right and plug it in like so. I did test line this up, and my only complaint is it looks like the tabs are a hair too low. So it's a little hard to show it and also do it at the same time, unfortunately, just because of the angle I have here. But you'll see it's sort of lined up, sort of not. So I'm going to have to massage it in a little bit. So I am going to go off camera here, but essentially this is all you're doing is plugging it in. Like I said, they're just a hair too low, so I'm kind of bending them ever so gently. But because this is mine and I don't want to break it, I'm going to do it the right way rather than forcing it. So let me do that real quick, and then I'll show you it plugged in here in a moment. Alright, so I got it started. It helped if you just kind of put your thumb on the back of these and just sort of guide it in with a little bit of pressure, and then just sort of walk it. So I'm just going to keep walking it ever so gently and get this fully cinched up here. But that is just about installed. Just doing the last few moments here, and then I'll go ahead and get this plugged back in. Alright, so now for the install, essentially this is just now replacing. See how it was a single thing? It's just replacing it. So right there, you're going to be plugging this in where you had found the old one. So we'll just go ahead and weave this back in, and then this will plug back in to the base here, like so. And then these clips, or these tabs, will go ahead and cinch together like the old one was. So that should be nice and in place, like so. And then we're going to go ahead and put our dust cover back on, and we'll start to reinstall real quick. And then once again, you're just sliding it into the plastic housing, the 2 size 10 millimeter nuts, and then naturally this post just goes back in that place, 2 size 10 millimeters there, and then go ahead and reconnect that. Then we're also going to go ahead and reconnect the negative side of our battery, and then we are ready to go ahead and give it a test fire. So just remember, again, I don't have the long tube headers connected to my downpipe yet, so it's probably going to sound like garbage. Maybe the audio will distort, but I just want to show you that now that the tune is in place, it doesn't have the symptoms of basically you start it, it runs for a second, then shuts off. Now the timing and everything should be good with the tune, and we'll be good to go. So let me set up and we'll give it a rip. So there you go, that's the unofficial part 2, just to add some extra details for this installation. The tuning was a huge help. You know, I know some people, they have to send their entire PCM out to get tuned, or they have to drive somewhere to get it fully dialed in, but this made it really convenient, really easy. So I would recommend that. But thank you very much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.